Hello, hello, hello. Hi everyone. Hey Katie. How you doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
Good. Hi everyone who's out there. Welcome for joining us. I always get so nervous with that countdown because it's like, I don't know, a countdown gives me anxiety or something. Anyway, we're here. We're live. We're very excited to be here. It's vocal production night for Pathwaves 2021. Very exciting moment, particularly because of lots of our members or participants or community that kind of started off their life in production as vocalists. So it's a topic that everyone's really interested in, and everyone has you kind of comes to it already with lots of knowledge, I guess. So in terms of talking about vocal production, it's like, where do we start? There's so much to talk about, and so we decided to kind of think about how we can do it. So I'm going to start off by talking about, we'll kind of start easy and think about how do we work within a context of a DAW like Ableton when you're going to be recording your voice and then thinking you've got lots of takes. I want to talk you through some of the basic stuff. Then I'm also going to talk about some creative things that you can do inside Ableton. I'd also love to hear from, because obviously I know you're all working and doing all sorts of interesting stuff. So please let this be an exchange. And if you have any cool tips, like throw them in the chat. And then I'm going to sign over to Katie. And Katie, what are you talking about?
So I'm going to open up, we'll see how much time we have, but I'm going to open up some sessions, some stems from my last record.
Cool.
Puritan, and just kind of go through like the vocal arrangement stuff and how like arrangement can play a big part in like the overall production or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then if we have time, I might open up a session from I did like a live performance at Roy Thompson Hall, and I sort of mixed those vocals myself and just did a lot of stuff to them that I think could be interesting. But yeah, we'll see.
Cool. Okay. Amazing. Yeah. I mean, you're so right. Vocal production, we think about things from sound design. Arrangement is a massive part of creating, really powerful vocals. And then we're going to hook back over to me, and I'm going to talk about using Melodyne and how we can work Melodyne. These days we've got so many amazing tools to really get vocals to, well, beyond human, obviously. And so looking at the way that producers work with tools like Ableton, like Melodyne, and then also thinking beyond kind of like the cleaning up, thinking about some creative experiments within a software like Melodyne. So we've got lots to do. That's where we're at. Now I've just noticed we've got some people in the chat. Really nice to see you all there. We've got Andrea's with us. Hey, hi Andrea. How you doing? And Fas is here. Hey Fas. Everyone who's there, give us a shout out. Tell us where you're joining from. Lane, what's up, Lane? Thanks for joining. Well, Zoe's here. What up, Zoe? Awesome. Okay, great. Really cool to see you all here. And, those of you who are hanging out in the background, say hello. Let us know who you are, where you're from, what do you want to get out of today. So we should probably dive in because there's lots to talk about, and we want to try and get it done in an hour. I also should say before I get going, Dan Wilder. Hey Dan, how's it going? Nice to see you. Bonjour tristesse. Salut, ça va? It's cool. Nice to see you all. So yeah, what was I saying? We have giveaways. Our tonight's stream is presented by Ableton, which we're really, really excited that Ableton partner with Pathwaves, and they've been a partner to Pathwaves since the beginning 3 years ago. So they're presenting this webinar, live stream, whatever you want to call it, and they have been very generous to give a copy of Live 11 Standard. So if you don't have a copy of Ableton 11, you know what to do. There is, we've got Ali on the chat who's going to put in links to register for that. So if you would like to register, please do that. And also we have, as we're talking about Melodyne, the lovely people from Solemni. I can never say it right. Solemni. Anyway, the Melodyne people have given us a copy of the Melodyne Suite, which is amazing. So you can also head over and register for that if you want it. And at the end, I'm going to do a big wheel draw live on air, and we'll see who wins that. Okay, so make sure you get into that. Okay, so Ali, can you put up the link to register for that? That would be good. We've got Sylvia from Iceland. Yeah. Hey. Okay, so Katie, I'll say goodbye to you for 20 minutes or so, and I'm going to get into some Ableton.
Cool.
See ya.
Ciao.
All right. So here we go. So give me a shout. Who uses Ableton? Who uses Logic? Who uses Pro Tools? What is everyone using? Okay, I just want to do a levels check. So love flows one out. Are you hearing those sweet tones? No hint of warmth and smiles turned down around. Let me know if you hear that. I hope you do. I'm pretty sure you do. I've tested it, but I just want to double check that it's working. Okay, so first up, I wanted to talk about starting from the beginning with vocal production. The recording, where do we start? Is thinking vocal production really begins with the performance and with the way the engineer is deciding what things we're choosing, what microphones and what preamps. Then it comes to the vocalist, the performance of the vocalist, and if there's a producer working with the vocalist, what kinds of performances and moods and expressions that want to be expressed, I guess, right? So we're not going to talk about that today. We're going to start from the moment of we've got stuff recorded. So I'm seeing here people are using Ableton Studio One, Pro Tools Reason, Ableton, Logic, Ableton, Pro Tools and Logic. Okay, so there's a bit of a range of things. So what I want to talk about today is comping. And, in Ableton 11, it's actually a new feature. So it's a pretty cool feature. And the way that it works in Ableton is very good. So we have a vocal here, right? It looks like a simple vocal. But if we open up the comping lanes, it's Option Command U, or you can also access it from clicking here. Okay, so we've got all of our comp lanes. I mean, that in and of itself is really good. Pro Tools uses playlists. Logic uses, what are they called? Comps or something? I can't recall. Anyway, so same kind of thing. So I think one of the really important things is to take some time and to go through and to figure out what are the best takes. And let's just start here, for example. Okay, so this is my main one. It's love. Okay, so the sa I don't like. Okay, so I want to just talk a little bit about what things you want to be listening for, or how do you select, how do you know what's good? A lot of people are focused initially on the, fast, I've got your Vienna up there. Maybe we'll get rid of that for now. Okay. A lot of people are really focused on performance, which is absolutely imperative. I want to offer another aspect as well. As a mix engineer, a lot of the things that I come across and things that I end up having to fix that we could pay attention to in the production before it even gets into things like compression and all that kind of jazz. Okay, so the sa is sna didn't sound very good. It's sa. You hear that? So let's see if there's a better one. It's na. And what I can do here, just like loop it, Command L. It's not. It's not. That one's better. It's not. That's even better. It's not. Oh, that's my first take. It's not. Okay, so I like actually this one the best, I think it was. So go back. Oops. Start it. It's not. Yeah, it's not. Okay. So now with Ableton, I can just grab it, hit enter, and it goes up to the top, which is good. Really easy the way that the comp is working. And the fades work really well as well. So let's move along. The flows one out. And actually what I did there is I took too much. I just wanted the first bit. Let's see that. Okay. It's not love flows one out. Okay, so that's fine. I don't mind that. Now, one of the things here is to see, I think when you're walking with comping, and this is another thing that I kind of see, is that people don't pay attention to these little crossover points. So be really careful about that and make sure, because I'd actually cut off the beginning of the next phrase. And as we do use things like compression and all that stuff, that will create a click or it creates problems. So let's pay attention to that. And then the next thing that I wanted to do actually was with the sa is to bring it down in volume. So these are little things you can do straight away. So I'm double clicking and going into the region to bring it down. It's the same kind of thing in any program that you're using, just to kind of adjust those levels.
It's not love flows one out.
Cool. Okay. Now there's also a little
Flows one out. It's not
there's something here that's kind of sounding a bit weird.
done, done, done,
Okay, so there's something here that is like an artifact.
done, love,
So I'm going to try and swap that out for something else. So let's go back.
done.
Okay, so that was better. Even though it was a bum take, I kind of like this one better. So let's see what we got again. So what I want to, again, I'm not going to do this like for too long, but the point of this exercise is to discuss like paying attention to little details. The other thing to say to this, of course, is if you do too much of this, you destroy the vocal because you're making it too choppy and you've got to think about the vocal performance. But there are some moments that when you can hear problems or an artifact or something, that it's important to do this. Okay, so I'm doing it too much probably, but I want to show you the technique.
It's not.
Okay, the snare, there's something, where is it? Can you all hear that? Hope so. So I'm going to try another thing, and rather than do a crossfade, I'm going to fade out and in.
It's not.
And that fixed it. So there was obviously something that was kind of carrying over that just didn't sound very good. So let's try again.
It's not love.
Okay, so here I made a problem there. Now the way that this is joining in, let's see what happens here.
Love.
Okay. Okay. Kind of see what I'm doing here. Now, because this is this is kind of a bum take, so this may not work, but I'm going to try. Yeah, it kind of does. Kind of works. Okay.
It's not love flows one out.
So enough of that said. So the point of this was to bring forward just paying a little bit of attention. When you comp your vocals, people tend to like comp them together, like just get parts and like move on. So I wanted to bring this forward to say that like pay a little bit of attention. It's your lead vocal. It's the most important thing. Go through it once you've comped it together and just make sure that it's the way the continuity and the linking between the parts is working properly. Okay. So I think I've made my point there. Bonjour Tristis is asking a question here saying, what are they saying? What makes it a bad or nice S sound? Yeah, I mean, I've got to say disclaimer that probably on the stream the S's are all going to sound pretty bad. But I mean, any S that you notice is probably a bad one. You know, I think that's a really important thing to remember, that when we're speaking normally and with our friends or whatever, the S's, we don't notice S's. They give us information about words or plosives. So when they sit up and they have more attention, you can hear the S actually in my microphone at the moment. It's not very nice. So anytime you hear it or it captures your attention more than the word it's attached to, then it's bad. Okay, so it means you need to deal with it. So first thing that we do here before de-essing and all of that stuff, before compressing, you can turn them down. You know, like that's a simple thing, is grab them and turn them down. And then, you know, as we go through with more and more and more compression, the S's are going to come up as well, right? So let's give them a chance to kind of deal with it at first. There's other things in terms of de-essing and all that stuff, which we talk about. I'll probably talk about that in the mixing session that I do. But for this part, in terms of their production, I want to bring forward that paying attention to these things there is actually really helpful if you can be bothered. Like as a mix engineer, I will also can do these things as well, but perhaps easier just to get it when you're working on it. And these are the things that when I work with artists, they often, when I'm mixing, they often are saying like, what can I do to get my vocal better before it comes to you? So this is kind of what I'm wanting to talk about now. Okay. So that's the first bit. Now, time just goes really quickly, and I've only got 20 minutes for this slot. So I want to keep on going. And in terms of working comping and doing editing, you know, it's obviously slightly different in Ableton from different programs, but they all work in a similar way. I think the way that Ableton does automatic fades and stuff like that is really good and really intuitive, and the flow is very good. So I'm really happy about this new comping feature in Ableton, because it was lacking. It was something I really annoyed that we didn't have in the past, but we do now, so that's good. Okay, so now I want to talk about a few little experimental processing things that you can do in Ableton, and also let me know, like, what do you do? How do you process your vocals? If someone let me know in what I just did in terms of talking about S's and comping, who does that kind of paying attention to the comping before you start kind of adding compression and stuff? And I'll be honest, I think people like to throw compression on as quickly as possible. Okay, so I've got my vocal here again, I hope.
It's not love.
Okay, so now what I wanted to do is like a bunch of different things that we might do. Oh, what happened to my simple vocal there? Oh, let's have a look. Okay, so I have some. I wanted to do a few kinds of transposition techniques and effects. So what I wanted to do was like kind of build it into the line, so to speak. So I can go into the clip view here and I can pick transposition, and you can see here that I've done one. So let's just listen to what I did here.
It's not love flows one out.
Okay, so these kinds of things, they're used a lot in production, and by working the transposition, it's kind of built into the vocal part already, and it's like a really simple way to do it that I don't think so many people know about or use. So it's just a clip, choosing clip.
It's not love flows one out.
Okay, and maybe that's a little bit too fast, so let's change it again. Hang on, I'll bring that forward.
It's not love flows one out.
I want to go one out. Let's go up, maybe. You get the idea, right?
It's not love flows one out.
Not bad. Okay, maybe it's a little tighter. So let's check it out again. So we're sitting here at 0. Let's go over to this one.
Love flows, no hint of warmth.
So no hint of. Maybe let's go change the pitch on that one note. Maybe a fifth up and then back down. See what that sounds like.
No hint of warmth and smiles.
Okay, let's bring it down perhaps a bit. And also I can go in here, if I go back to the detailed view, I might want to change the format, right? So there's different kinds of algorithms to have a different impact on the voice. So maybe I'll pick the more complex one that gives a more natural sound, and let's see how that rolls.
It's not love flows one out.
Oh, that's kind of nice.
No hint of warmth and smiles turned down around.
I mean, I don't like it actually there, but you get the kind of you get the idea. So I mean, it's particularly this like technique I've used at the end of phrases and things to kind of get a bit of a vibe. And if you take it to the next level, and then which one is this one?
Flows one out.
If I do this,
Flows one out.
hang on, let's bring that in.
Flows one out.
Okay, so as soon as we start to then maybe automate that with automate that into a throw with some delay or reverb, it starts to become a really interesting aspect of the vocal part. So I'll do that again.
Flows one out.
Right? You get the idea.
Flows one out.
So another little tip, ways that we can work within the doors to make things interesting. And, obviously gentle touches with these kinds of approaches. What's next? Okay, so another thing that we can do is turn the voice into a sampler, which is stuff that I'm sure some people have done before. Let me know. I'm not seeing much in the chat. Who's doing these kinds of things when you're processing your vocals? So I've got. Okay, so we can simply take the vocal, drop it into a sampler, and kind of mess around with it. And I think that this is something is really popular, and a lot of producers have been doing this for a number of years now. And there's a few different ways that you can can manipulate this. Okay, so I wanted to talk through some of the different approaches. In a program like Ableton, using samplers in this way is just really easy, and in my opinion, it's the best and the most simple workflow. So I would do all of my kind of vocal kind of sample production stuff here for these kinds of new experimental kind of techniques. So using a simple sampler, the simpler, you just throw it in and you can, there's a few different ways, but so the classic way, we'll just play it back. So then I can. And what I'm demonstrating this because this is something that I have done to make, like, again, thinking about how do we use this technology in creative ways that can make its way into a production. And for me, this helps me get different ideas for vocal passages, or maybe for kind of counter melodies or supporting kind of ostinatos or things like that within the context of the larger vocal arrangement. So Katie's going to talk about vocal arrangement, but when I do things like this, that gives me a whole, like maybe a bridge section and maybe it's an outro that I hadn't thought of before. So I'm not really I'm kind of using the phrase. So I think a lot of people use this with a tiny little bit and then they make a whole new instrument out of it. But I wanted to demonstrate this with the idea of taking a phrase and then kind of playing that phrase. It's like kind of like old school sampling like you used to do in the 90s or whatever. Okay, so that's with using the simpler. And the final one that I wanted to share with you is a little bit more complex. So with this one, we're using the sampler, which we can add things like looping. So let's go to this one. Okay, so hang on a sec. I've done some weird stuff here. Is that quiet? Maybe I should turn up a bit. Where is the volume? Where is the volume? Where is the volume? Oh, here it is. Okay, so with this one, I've added in some through envelopes, and it kind of starts to be like synthesis. I've started to add in frequency modulation. Okay, so as this goes through this ADSR envelope, it's turning up the volume of a sine wave, which is modulating the pitch information of the main vocal, which is also then turning it into like a frequency modulated sound. So let's have a listen to that again. It gets quite wild. Oh, sorry. Okay, so you can see again with this, it's kind of moving beyond vocal production. But these things and these little touches here, particularly for transition, so you're coming out of a section and you're moving into the next one of these little touches really adds something very special. And, as you design it, it's your own thing. People do similar things, but it's your kind of your own synth patch / vocal chop that you've worked with. So I think there's lots of really interesting things that you can do within the sampler that's beyond just dropping in a vocal loop and then making, I don't know, an arpeggiator out of it or something, which is also cool. But I think everyone kind of knows how to do that. So yeah, so this little segment was designed to encourage you to be like, look at the detail of stuff, and then also like take a minute to explore just deeper, and again, I think Bonjour Tristes is saying, I'll bring this up for everyone to see. So these are things that I've been looking to do but never managed to search the right keywords on YouTube tutorials. Yeah, so it definitely, I hope that this has given you a bit of an insight. It's obviously not a tutorial step by step, but the idea here is that, just little bits. So kind of coming in with this, and I turned the oscillator on is the first thing. And then I decided how quickly I wanted it to come in, right? So that the sooner I put this on, the sooner that it starts to mess with the sound. So I can mess up the sound and then, okay, so by increasing the volume of the sine wave, that is increasing the frequency of the sine wave, which is modulating the pitch, right? And then I can decide, okay, so I want that to come after the first part of the phrase. So I make the attack, I change the timing of the attack, and you can see it here. All right. Okay, so I hope that was some interesting insights. JR is saying that using your voice to make synth parts before, really cool. So again, I want to just bring out that this wasn't designed to about making your voice into synth parts, which I think is also really, really good. I wanted to demonstrate this as the kind of transition between the voice and synthetic layers or synth layers that may be made up of your voice, but the ways to kind of create links and connections with timbre and texture throughout your production, so that you don't just have like vocals and synths and the ways that you can kind of weave and connect all the different parts in your production through different kinds of vocal production techniques, which is essentially synthesis as well. Cool. Okay, so that's the end of my little segment. It's time for Katie. And Katie, wherever you are, return, yes. Katie's going to talk about arrangement. So I'm going to pop over to her. I'll just get rid of my screen. And welcome, Katie.
Hi.
Yo. All right, over to you.
Okay, so I'm going to...
You got to share your screen, yeah?
Share my Ableton. Can you see it?
I can, yep. Now, just before I leave and give over to Katie for 20 minutes or half an hour or something, register. I'm going to check the registration now, and I'm going to set up the giveaways. So if you haven't registered for the software, do it now if you want it, otherwise you miss out. All right, have fun, Katie, and see you later.
Okay, thanks, Jane. That was actually really interesting to watch, because I find everybody uses Ableton really differently. Like I never really do any of those things that you were doing, so it's super useful to kind of see what other people do. But yeah, so I have here a song from my last record called I Am Not Waiting, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about the vocal production and the arrangement. So yeah. Run away from the trees with your hands above your... Yeah, so it's this. And yeah, one thing I just wanted to say, kind of in line with what Jane was saying about compression. I historically have like a major aversion to compression, because with my voice, like my voice can get really loud, and I find engineers often want to throw compression on it like first thing, and I find it kind of like changes the tonal quality of it. Like it just kind of like crushes it in this way that I don't really like, or it kind of gets rid of like some certain transients or some parts that I think make it like unique. And so when I tend to record all my own vocals because I just have an idea of how I want them to sound. And one super important thing that I have found is that instead of just putting compression on it, first doing tons and tons of vocal automation. Because a lot of the time compression is just kind of the way to like, you know, make the quiet parts louder and make the loud parts quieter, but you can do that yourself, you know, with just like automation. I won't do it properly here, but you know, just, whoops, this is not the right section. Track volume. I would usually use a utility, but just like, you know, turning little like words up or down. And I find that that can make like a massive difference in sort of how much compression you need, if any at all. So yeah, like with my tracks, I'll get super, super detailed with that. And just do tons and tons of vocal automation. Yeah, so with this track, like the verse, I don't have the like each individual tracks, I just have the stems right now. But yeah, this is the verse. Run away from the trees with your hands above
above your head. Run away like I never believed in anything else.
So yeah, with this vocal part, it's like barely there. It's like I think I recorded this a whole bunch of times and just sort of sang like as quietly as possible, which can be really, really hard to do. But I kind of like this effect in vocals, and I also really like, my friend taught me about this. It's called it doesn't have an official name, but we call it the Mariah Carey technique. And it's actually when you put EQ on your vocals. Let's see. And then you boost the 10K, it actually like accentuates the S's and the T's, and it kind of creates that like sort of crispy with like lots of transient vocal sound that's like all over Mariah Carey records. So like even now, like it has a lot of that already, but just like
above your head.
But that like accentuates it even more to put that in. So I did a lot of that with this part. Yeah, and then I also do a lot of harmonies when I do vocal parts. So in this section, I've got like a lead vocal, and then
do the seasons change? When does the ripe fruit fall?
Oh, then it comes into 3 parts.
To a last for taking, a sweetness I've been craving.
Yeah, so that's like a 3-part harmony, basically. I don't really know how to talk about doing harmonies because I honestly don't really know where they come from. Like, I guess I kind of just like will have a lead vocal part and then just sort of like jam out other parts to go underneath it. I guess to me it kind of sounds like sort of classic counterpart harmony stuff. I do a lot of like fifths and fourths and thirds and that kind of thing.
Do the seasons change?
This particular harmony to me kind of reminds me of like sort of a 1970s sort of like Fleetwood Mac-y style harmony. I don't know, maybe it's just me that sees that, but that's sort of what I was going for. Yeah, and then the chorus.
I'm not waiting for you no more. You had a warning. You just ignored. I am a mountain grown out of work. You fabricated. I'm over you. 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 I'm over you.
Yeah, so in this section, which is like the chorus or like chorus outro, I don't know what you would call it, I do this a lot, and that's sort of turning the voice into like a rhythmic element. So the backing vocal here. And I just find it sort of it's like an alternative to like a usual like drum sound or a percussion or whatever, and it just kind of like keeps it moving. Yeah, I do that a lot in my stuff.
Run away.
Yeah, this is the same as the other part, but with a few more harmonies in it.
Run away like you never believed in anything at all. Anything at all.
Yeah, so it's just more of like the 3-part harmony. Yeah, and then going into the next chorus, I've sort of like built upon it a little bit more. I have like the rhythmic vocal, and then a few other elements. I'll just play it for you.
I'm over you. I'm over you. I'm over you. I'm over you. I'm over you. I'm over you. I'm over you. I'm over you. I'm over you.
So yeah, there's like a few different rhythmic harmonies going along there, and they're actually just looped. So like even the lead vocal part is just, that part is just looped. And then the backing vocals are also looped. Yeah, so that's just kind of, and then obviously there's lots of delay everywhere. But yeah, so to answer Bonjour Tristesse, I recorded them just in my own studio. So like really similar to what I'm in right now, kind of just like a production room. I find with vocals are really hard because it's so much pressure to record vocals. I find like when you're in like a really fancy studio that costs like $1 million a day, it can just be like, it's hard to get a good take, I find, because there's just so much pressure. And so I've done really like as much as I can to be able to record vocals myself, or be able to record vocals sort of in low pressure environments. And the other thing about recording vocals is that there's just like, and this is probably in contrast to everything as Jane is saying, but like there's so much you can do to the vocals that it actually, no, this is exactly what she said, that it's just 100% about the performance. And if you have like an awesome performance that was recorded badly, I think you can make it work, and I think it's worth it. And then I do that all the time. So yeah, moving into the bridge, I have this other like 3-part harmony. Yeah, so in this section, I've got this 3-part kind of like chanting harmony. Yeah, it's sort of just playing like just a regular 3-note chord. I don't remember what root note chord or whatever. It's like a first, a third, and a fifth, basically, with that vocal part. And then of course there's still sort of like the rhythmic stuff bouncing around as well. But this 3-part harmony eventually kind of serves as sort of like the bed of the track, so that instead of like a guitar part or a keyboard part or whatever, like this is what I'm using to really sing on, as you can hear.
Listening to you. Will you help yourself now, like I asked you to?
Yeah, so that 3-part harmony again is basically just looped. Like I just I looped it, and then I just sang on top of it. I sang like the lead line on top of that, and then of course have like a lot of the rhythmic stuff going all around at the same time. So let me see. I've got a few questions here I'm going to try and answer. Would you argue rather no harmonies at all on a part than one that doesn't really deliver? I mean, I think it depends. Like harmonies can serve such different purposes. Like sometimes, like in this track, the harmony is really, really prominent and is like a major feature like of the song. Like I think that the lead line is not the same without the harmonies.
Run away like you never believed in anything at all.
Like there's such an integral part of that I think to not have them, it would just completely change the song. And because of that, they needed to be like really on point. Like those kinds of harmonies can be really difficult to record actually, because they need to be kind of perfect in a way. Like just it's hard to get like the tuning right. So I'll have to do a lot of takes, and it's hard to match up like the syllables and just match up the rhythm. Like you're basically have to kind of like clone yourself, but a little bit differently over and over to do things like that. But that said, there's other kind of harmonies that you can do that are more just sort of like textural, and those ones don't have to be as perfect. Like I think in this section,
If you were unbending.
Like there's a lot going on in that section that actually like isn't so perfect and just kind of all over the place, and that itself sort of creates its own aesthetic and just sort of creates like an overall vibe rather than like sort of blending more perfectly into like the lead vocal. How do you make the backing vocal so rhythmic? I mean, honestly, I'll just kind of do what Jane was doing with like sampler or simpler or whatever, just kind of like take a piece of vocal and just like copy and paste it in a grid, and you can kind of just like create any sort of rhythm you want. And I guess it's important when you do that to like find the right sort of like start point and end point of the vocal part, so it like has the right attack and the right kind of like release at the end. But yeah, basically just program it like you would program drums, essentially. And then Bonjour Tristesse is talking about recording at home and how it's hard to find the right sound. I mean, yeah, this is definitely true. And like I've struggled with this a lot as well. And like I know there's a few techniques to recording at home. Like you want to try and have some sort of like padding behind you. Like a lot of people will put like a duvet cover behind them, or put like just something. It's actually like behind you is more helpful than what's in front of you. So that can be good. And then I think for me, in order to like record vocals at home, just having like a microphone that you like is really important. And if you have the budget, like a nice preamp to put the mic through can make a really big difference. Like I know a lot of artists, like this is often called the chain. Like they have like their mic, their preamp, and maybe their compressor, although I don't have a compressor. But like when you find a chain that you like, you just kind of stick with it and you can kind of use it everywhere. Like I always hear about famous musicians like taking their chain with them on tour so they can like record vocals on the fly. But yeah, I've actually recently been recording vocals with the microphone that I use for live performance. So not even like a proper vocal mic. It is just like, it's a DPA de facto, and I use this on stage. And I've started recording demos with it, and then I decided I just like the way the demos sound and have continued using it. Just because I can hold it like this rather than like, you know, with a proper studio setup. So I feel like more free. And also because it, this particular mic, because it's a live mic, it cancels out a lot of background noise. So for recording at home, it's actually easier. That's actually something to note, is that like super fancy professional studio microphones don't record as well, like in a space that isn't treated properly as like, you know, a less good microphone might. So yeah, it's kind of just about experimenting and finding what works for you. Yeah, I feel like I've probably gone over my time. I don't know if Jane, you want to come back and talk about it.
Awesome. I mean, I'm happy to let you go all the time. It's super interesting. Really cool stuff. I definitely want to just support what you said about a nice mic and a preamp. I think that will take you such a long way. It's like if people are thinking about things to invest in for their own vocal sound at home, I think, and it doesn't have to be an expensive mic, just one, as you said, one that works for your voice. And oftentimes it's not the most expensive one. Definitely great tip for sure. Really great questions, everyone. Super interesting. I also like, I have a question for you actually, which is you kind of, maybe it's a hard one for you to answer because it's probably so much a part of what you, I don't know, just it's like an intuitive thing. But a big part of your sound is these harmonies that you get. And I want to try and kind of tease something out from you if possible. So you say that you get the harmonies by just like jamming. But with the different, you know, and you're also a piano player. So do you have a knowledge of chords as you're singing harmonies? Or are you at the piano experimenting with harmonies at like the same time? Like give us a bit more insight into that.
I mean, honestly, I think that my like harmony technique or whatever comes from my background in choirs.
Sure.
Like I was in choirs basically for over 10 years when I was a kid. And, you know, I sang all the different parts like alto, soprano, second soprano, whatever. And I think that just sort of ingrains like those types of parts inside you. And I mean, honestly, like, yeah, singing in a group or like chorus singing or choral singing, I think is like so helpful for that sort of sensibility.
Yeah.
And I think like there's lots of ways people can do that now. You know, there's tons of like community choirs and various like choir things. There's like the Sacred Harp or whatever it's called, Sacred Heart or something like that choir. But yeah, I guess it's just something that you get used to over time.
Yeah. It's definitely, I mean, kind of listening to the different, like, I guess you have an idea for what you want, and then like an open harmony or a kind of, 70s style or traditional choir vibe. I guess that's the thing that's, because it's like, what's your creative decision-making process? You like have an idea obviously in your head, and you like jam it out until you match the sonic outcome for what you kind of the emotional or something. Is that, I'm trying to like, you know.
Yeah, no, I guess I'm trying to think like there's definitely, like I'll definitely like draw on different influences. Like, like I said, in that song that I was playing, it was sort of like a 1970s, 60s sensibility. And that kind of, to me, what characterizes that specifically is, I can show you again, like what makes it the 1960s or 1970s sound is
run away like you never believed in anything at all.
It's kind of that chord specifically, like
anything at all.
So like I don't even know. I can't even tell what kind of chord that is. It's like I'd have to play it out on the piano, but it's like
it's like a I think it's like it's an open. It's not a resolved cadence.
Yeah,
it's not 5/6 or something.
Yeah, it's something like that. So it's like that to me is what characteristically makes it like that sort of like Fleetwood Mac-ish 60s, 70s style harmony.
Right, cool. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Really, really good. I mean, we could talk for ever, all night. Okay, so thank you, Katie. That was amazing. Again, short, but so much really good information, and
thank you.
Really good. I also really liked, again, bringing in the crossing over kind of what I was doing, the like paying attention to the levels, and before you kind of go, because I think people can't kind of go crazy. People go crazy with like audio processing, and it's not always like the answer. In fact, often it's not the answer.
Definitely.
It's kind of like the next thing, not the first thing. Amazing. Thank you, Katie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being there. And everyone, thank you for the great questions. Now I'm going to do the final section, which is kind of getting geeky with Melodyne. So I'll say goodbye to Katie and turn my Ableton on again. Oh, I was enjoying Katie so much that I forgot to change my Melodyne, my project. So just a sec. Let's get out of there. Amazing. How good was that, everyone? That was so good. Really, really enjoyed that. Okay, so the final thing today, again, the second part of today is presented by Melodyne. And Melodyne is one of those things that everyone is asking me how to work with Melodyne. Now, Katie just, demonstrated, what really great singers and the attention to detail of performance when recording to get the parts right and in time and perfect. There's nothing that will ever be better than getting a good vocal performance. So I really want to state that right off the bat. There are ways as well that we can clean up and tidy up parts if we find that we need other things, or maybe we just couldn't do it on the day or whatever happens. The technology now is really there to help us get our vocals even better. And not all of us are Katie Stelmanis, let's face it. So I wanted to talk about some of the basic functions of working with Melodyne. Does anyone give me a indication if anyone works with Melodyne? Okay, I have a track. Now I want to give you a little bit of a blast of it. So this is from Evol, my band Evol, and this is a song called It's Okay. So I'm just going to play a bit of this now. All right, so that was the chorus of It's Okay. So hopefully you all heard that. It's playing that from Spotify. Check it out, stream it if you haven't heard it before. So in the context of this chorus, I mean, this is the idea of this album with Evolve, and definitely the vocals, was that we wanted it to sound artificial. That was one of the things that we were experimenting and playing with non-natural sounding vocals, which is something that was quite different from what we'd actually done before. But we weren't using auto-tune as much. We wanted to really be able to because the thing with auto-tune, then it was changing all of the performance. So I wanted to be able to, kind of make it natural when I wanted to, and then make it artificial when I wanted to as well. So Melodyne was a really good option for that. So who's using Melodyne? Give me a shout out if you are. So I have the chorus part. Now I want to first play you this without Melodyne, okay? So it's just the straight parts all together.
It's okay, we'll fall together. It's okay to cry. It's okay.
So it sounds okay.
We'll fall together. It's okay.
Is that loud enough? Is Dan saying turn it up? I'm not quite sure. Okay, so we have these vocals here. They sound okay, but they are a little bit loose. And again, the point of this is that we want it to be really, really tight and also really, really vibey. So for this, I wanted them super, super tight. So I want the S's all exactly the same, the beginning transients all exactly the same, the end of the phrase is exactly the same. And I wanted that level of precision that it was actually quite hard to do from singing. Okay, so a few people are saying, yeah, they're trying. Rika's trying using Melodyne, and Lane only if absolutely necessary. Okay, so now let me play it with Melodyne. So I'll give another blast without, just to refresh your memory.
Okay, we'll fall together.
Okay, now let's play it with.
It's okay, we'll fall together. It's okay to cry.
Okay, so you can really hear it so much cleaner, so much tighter. And I've really balanced the parts. I've brought out the transient parts that I wanted, and I've made them, all the bits end at the same point, make the S's all exactly. So it just feels tighter, and there is compression on that. You can hear that as well, right? So let's one more time.
It's okay, we'll fall together.
With Melodyne.
It's okay to cry.
I mean, that's maybe a bit cheating because it's a little bit lower in volume, but you can hear what's going on there. Okay, so let's talk about let's do Melodyne. Okay, so I want to talk about, first of all, giving a demonstration of just the basic functions of Melodyne. So I've already put them in ahead of time, and this is what it looks like. If you can also get, Melodyne has Studio, which is the full suite, which is the full thing, but you can also get Melodyne Elements, which is under €100, I think. So it's pretty good value. So within this, I want to have a listen. So first of all, let's say I start with a vocal and I want to check that it's all sounding good. Hang on a sec. Let's turn the right one on. Okay.
Okay.
Right. If I got it all off. Yeah. Okay, let's try again. Right.
It's okay.
Okay, so within this, I want to make sure that all the bits and pieces are hitting in the right way that I want to.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay, so with this, the different tools that you have, there's pitch, which I can move things up and down, and I think it's command click, and you can move it gradually. Yeah, is it which one? Oh yeah, sorry, it's option click. And so I can get more fine tuning. And then I can also cut things. Like here, there's a slide. So maybe I want to kind of tune one part of that and not the other. so I can cut it. So with the cut tool. So there's a bunch of different tools, and I'm obviously not going to go through all of them in this short tutorial, but selecting the tools, and with a little bit of practice with this, it gets actually quite fast.
It's okay. We'll fall together.
Okay, so here this will fall. That went a little bit high. Okay, so with this one, I cut it and then I go back to the pitch and bring it down.
We'll fall together.
And again with this one, so I'm going to cut it. Okay, so the idea, where is it? There we go. This one slightly up, back to the pitch. And it just starts to feel, basically, if I'm not the most amazing singer in the world, I can work with this to really help my vocals get better, basically. Okay, so let's say that I have done that. So we go through and same thing, I go through, I listen to it. And the important thing about this, I'm obviously doing it out of context of the track, but you want to have the music playing in the background as well, because it's very easy to Melodyne your way into disaster. So it's very important, always work with Melodyne with the music. So I do my lead vocal first, and I get this right. And you can see that I'm not doing lots of things. It's just occasionally, if something sticks out and it doesn't feel right and I don't have a better take, then this is my best take and I want to do a few adjustments. So I did like 3 things there. So again, if you find you're Melodyning everything, it means that you probably need to sing it again. So I've done that and I'm really happy with that. So then I'm going to turn this hit the gray button. So this means that it's solid. I can't move it. So this becomes my template for me to add in the layers. And so this is the thing that we want to get these layers working and really matching the main lead part. So we can see here with this one that the S straight off the bat is much longer and it's out of time. So I clicked it to cut it so I can move these independent of each other. And then I'm going to move them to align them so that the S starts at the same point. And that's one of my pet hates, is S's that are all over the place. It just sounds bad. Okay, so and again, this is the plosive bit. This is the attack part, and they need to start at the same moment as well. Then I can audition it.
It's okay.
Sounds good. Okay, I'm moving on. Next bit, that's okay. I don't mind that. I'm going to leave that off.
We'll fall together.
Okay, so now here we can see that there's some pitch problems. So I can go into my pitch tool and I can bring them up so that they work together. Now, if you make them all like exactly the same, they will sound bad because they're supposed to be slightly different because they're real vocals. So I don't want it to all be like exactly on top. So you kind of got to experiment with that, but see how it goes. Okay, cool. Okay, and this one kind of stopped a bit early, so I'm going to move that. Oh, wrong tool. Move it across.
Fall together.
Now this T is slightly off, so I'm going to use now a different tool. Move it across. I kind of want to get this to go elongated. So you can see, again, we're moving through. I'm listening to it.
Together.
Now here one of them went down sooner than the other one. So that just didn't sound that nice. So again, cut it, move it, play it. Nice. Okay, then this one was too long, or too short actually, because I decided the other one was the better one. So I'm going to move that longer.
It's
There you go. Okay, so you get the idea. So it's like this paying attention to this, just going through and like tightening it all up really helps when you've got multiple vocals that all sound quite nice, but you want it to be really cohesive. And particularly, like, again, for this track, it was really punchy, like musical and percussive track. So I wanted the vocals to be as exact and on the money as the transients of the drums. So I deemed that this kind of attention was necessary. Okay, so that's working with, we've got our lead part, we work with the double, and then what happens, I'm going to lock those, and then I bring in, now this is for when you're running out of time and you've got to get a lot of stuff done at the same time. If you can start to get into this, you can start to process multiple parts all at the same time. So we can see here, this, for example, is out of pitch because these are all unisons. So all of these need to move up. These need to move up. Okay, you can start to get a sense of what's going on. So I'm just going to move these all up without really listening to them and just see what happens, kind of in the general vicinity. And see those S's? There's a bit of S craziness going on there. So that will need attention. So I can start to batch process things as we go. Now, for timing, this is fine for pitch. When they're all on the same pitch, you can kind of get a sense of it. But when you're working with timing, we've got no hope to get to align those S's. So on this right-hand corner, there's this little squiggly line. You actually don't think you can see it because my face is in the way. Let me see if I can move this around. Yeah, okay. In this part right here, I think you can see that. So I hit that button and then it splits them. And so now I can look at the alignment of all of these parts. And you can see, as I said, these bits here are all the plosives. So all of these plosives need to be aligned with each other. So I'm going to make my main vocal grey again. And then you can see that I have to move all of these bits along, make them all even, make them all work, right? And then when you can start to, it can be a little bit overwhelming at first when you do this if you want to do batch processing. But if you've got like big, massive vocal parts, if you can start to do all of these at the same time, it cuts the time significantly, because otherwise you're here doing one and then the next and then the next. And it just takes like literally, well, it takes hours anyway, but it takes more than hours. Okay, so let's have a listen to that bit now.
It's okay.
Okay, it's getting there. There's this. Some of these things are starting a bit early. These need to move over. Okay, so that's the kind of whistle stop tour of Melodyne, and with showing you some of the basic functionality of working with an individual part, with paying attention to balancing two parts, and then taking it even further and thinking about how might I process multiple harmony parts together. I think you can see, for those, a lot of us do a lot of vocal processing, and I've been doing vocal production for a long time. I used to do it in Logic, I do it in Pro Tools, I do it in Ableton, and over the years, I've actually started to really favor working in Melodyne for these kinds of details, because I really like the way it sounds. I like the algorithms that they have. And I also, it ends up being faster because of what I showed you just then, that I can kind of process them all together within that one view and really see where all of the transients are working together, change the tails with quite a lot of ease. So that's Melodyne. I mean, again, it's one of those things that I think a lot of people think that Melodyne's kind of harder than it is, or that it's, it's really, most producers that I know work with Melodyne with their vocals. So I think it's, again, the idea of like pathwaves and all these vocal production, the production and mixing masterclasses that we're doing is really to impart the secrets that the professionals, the engineers are using, big studios and big vocals and all that kind of stuff. So I hope that this has been interesting for you. It's obviously a quick introduction, and Melodyne does take time to get to know, but I really think it's really worth it. I mean, interesting. Probably Katie is like, no, don't touch my vocals with Melodyne. And that's totally fine as well. So I'm really happy that we've had the opportunity to show the different kind of aspects of vocal production, from the really high quality virtuosic singer who can sing in perfect performances and really thinking about the intention behind what lines to record, and then the technical back end as to how we can get really good results, even if we might not have Katie Stelmanis' abilities on vocals. So I hope that you all found that good, interesting. Let me know. There's JR is saying, what's JR saying? Melodyne blows my mind every time I see it. Yes, Melodyne's it's pretty good. It's a pretty good tool. Okay, so we've got some responses now. Just you're gonna have to give me a few minutes, because I have to get these responses and put them into the wheel of fortune, as it were. So whilst we're waiting, we're going to finish up in a few minutes. We'll just get this happening. Let me know. I don't know. How did you find today? What did you learn anything new? How does this compare to your approach in production? What's your favorite mic? I don't know. Who uses a preamp when they record? Let's get some vibes out there whilst I put people's names into the where is it? I've got it hiding here somewhere. Oh yeah, here it is. All right. So first up is, what's the first one? Where is it? Okay, so the first one is for Ableton, I believe. Sorry, everyone. There's a bit of dead air here. Do you like my click to spin? How good's this? All right. So we have Natalie, Kelly, Veronica, Annalise, Fanny, Sylvia, and Jennifer. And we're going to click to spin and see who gets the Ableton license. Here we go. Ooh, Veronica J. Koenig. Very good, very good. So, Veronica, send us an email and we will get the details of Ableton to you. Okay, and then the final one for today is for Melodyne. And we're about to, got a few more people here, people that are not using Melodyne. Exciting stuff. I think this is really cute as I found this today. Love it. All right. Congrats to Veronica. Okay, here we go. Ready for the Melodyne. Last one for today. Oh, hang on. I might need to reset it. Well, hang on a sec. Oh no. Sorry, everyone. Just a slight technical hitch. We got everyone in the wheel? We do. We've got everyone in the wheel to spin. And here we go for Melodyne. Oh, Natalie Cab. Hey. Big money, big money. Yes. Okay, so Natalie and who was the other person? I've forgotten already. Gosh, mine like a fish. Veronica and Natalie, big congrats. Please send us a message, info@pathwaves.de. Ali, could you put up our email there again? Okay, everyone. So that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope that this has been interesting for you. Thank you for all of your questions. I really appreciate it. Massive thanks to Katie Stelmanis for being with us today, and happy vocal producing, and see you in 2 weeks, I think, for the last mixing masterclass. There's also, gosh, I should have checked the program before I said this. There is a Q&A Zoom that I'm going to be taking, which is just a kind of a drop-in session for people that have questions about the application process. So I know a lot of people are asking about the application process. So sign up for that. And just a reminder that the applications are open for the studio event. The event is, if anyone is watching and doesn't know what it is 1 week in a studio with, in my opinion, the best studio in Berlin. One of the best studios in the world is called Brewery Studios, and you get an opportunity to work with other people, engineers, producers, songwriters, form a team, create a demo, and then come into the studio and use all the amazing gear and make your song sound $1 million. So please get your applications in, ask questions, and see you next time. Thanks, everyone.